Hello, everyone. It's so nice to have you here at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network. Our show today is the Mallorca Connection, and normally I would be joined by Mr. Roland.friedl, but he has the day off. So I'm super excited to welcome back a guest that we've had on the program before. She brought so much value and so much education. She's a sociologist, and her name is Maria Montesino. Let's welcome her to the program. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
Hi, it's so nice to see you today, and thank you for coming back again. I love when guests visit us a second, third, fourth, fifth time.
Thank you. It's a great moment that we had last time, so it's a pleasure to see you again in the show.
Thank you very much. And, our topic today is celebrating rural communities by empowering women. And you and I talked a little bit backstage. There are plenty of people who live in a big city. They like the city, they like the attributes of the city, but people are also leaving the city because there's a lot of wonderful beauty and opportunity outside the city. What is it that enabled you to decide to leave the city and move into a rural area?
Well, there were like many factors, many different things, but my relationship with the countryside actually stems from my childhood. We always had like a countryside house in the Campo Valley where I live now. This house we used to go at the weekend from Santander, the city where I lived with my family when I was a child. A house with traditional architecture of this area, made with stone and oak wood, which my parents restored almost 40 years ago to turn it into a cozy and functional space. So today is the house where I live. I moved here in 2005 after finishing my university studies. Because my family at that time started a cultural gastronomic project in this house, in this valley, a restaurant where we held cultural meetings as well and edited magazines on art, culture. This project lasted from 2005 until 2015, when my father passed away, and I've been living here for almost the last 20 years. I find in the countryside life like everyday contact with nature, like a great community to be part of, and probably the most important thing is a beautiful way of be here with my family, with my 8-year-old girl, daughter, Candela, and almost we have almost everything here in the village nowadays. We have a Wi-Fi, we have transport, we have many things that there are as well in the cities. So here we have nature, and most of the cities don't. So I think that living in the countryside is always a good option.
It sounds like an incredible journey that you've had there, especially surrounded by your family in such a beautiful setting. So, congratulations for that. And I'm wondering, Maria, just in general, what is it like for a woman, in your experience and the women that you know, to live in the country?
Well, there is, I am a sociologist, so the question is really complex. It's really difficult. It's a very difficult question, really, because there are many lives and many ways of living. We know that not all women live the same. It depends, which is logical, the quality of life. It depends on many factors, such as the social origin or the economic level, the age, health, education, culture, etc. But if we compare the life here in Spain of rural women with other countries all over the world, there is a good life. I think, there are always many things to be improved. For example, salaries should be equal for those of men. I mean, in many professions, women still earn less than men for doing exactly the same work. So there are many targets to work on. But I think in general, the lives of these rural women in Spain is very good. We have another problems like sexism, and we have to find more equality in general. But I think if we compare it with other countries in the world, we have a very good life here in the countryside in Spain.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know that the transition that you made from the city to the country was a while back, but what was that like for you? Because I think that that sheds light for other people who are looking to do the same thing. Was it a difficult transition? What can you tell us about it?
Okay, this is a question that always people here in Spain, they also ask me this question, because from 220, with COVID crisis and all that, at that time, many people moved from the cities to the countryside because they prefer to be more in contact with nature. So the transition was, on the one hand, very easy, because the environment, the village, the house, the valley were familiar to me, because I had spent here many time, like a large part of my childhood. On the other hand, it was not only moving to the countryside, but also carrying out different activities from what I was used to. I come from a family of people dedicated to culture. My father was an anthropologist, my mother was a teacher. Both of them had a publishing house where we still today run a magazine, La Ortiga. So this world, this culture world, this research world, this social science world was very useful for me, because I was able to understand better the rural life, the rural world, to find the things that were familiar to me, um, because it allowed me to understand the context and to enjoy it in a different way. Maybe the most difficult thing, I think, it was getting used to living in a town, in a small village with less than 200 inhabitants, um, having just arrived from Bilbao, where I studied at the university, which is a very different city with many very different and varied options, activities. And this was temporary, because the distances here are very short. And my daily life is actually like a sort of itinerant. I enjoy my house in a natural environment, so to say, but I have Santander an hour away, or Bilbao 2 hours away. So I travel a lot for work, and I don't miss urban life, because I keep this contact. In general, I think all experiences and knowledge are useful in life, whatever they are, because you never know when you will have to use them. So this transition was, it has like two hands, two ways of looking at it, but I think in general was a very nice transition, and I always feel very comfortable here in the country.
I'm glad to hear that about the transition. That's terrific. Maria, there is an old saying that a person can be lonely in a crowd. And so many times in the city, people feel like if there's a lot of people around, then you're not alone, you're not lonely. But that really doesn't mean anything. But when you look at moving to the country where there's 200 inhabitants or less, you really could be lonely if you're not accepted by other women or other people there in the community. Were you accepted right away?
Yeah, sure. I have never had any problem relating to rural women from the very first day. In reality, we are all women, but with a different way of thinking, different lives. But it never implies like a conflict for me, but also an opportunity to get to know different lives of these women, rural women. I have to say that I have had more conflict with rural men, without a doubt. For example, when you speak in public, I am very used to speak in public in Spanish about issues that affect them, or that they talk about on a daily basis. Like, for example, livestock farming is one of them. These men, sometimes they feel like, I think, like a kind of threatened, because I am like a woman that can speak in public, then can work with other men. I think that we have to work too much on these kind of things, because there is like a need for many women. We need more women in decision making positions, in public visibility, in spaces of voice. That is why I think we have to empower rural women. That there are more female presidents of agricultural cooperatives, that there are more women in politics, in companies, in these kind of spaces, because I think this is learned from a young age, to speak in public, to think for themselves, to express their opinions, their feelings freely, in a free way. So I had, without a doubt, more problems with men, with rural men, than with rural women. Rural women were always very friendly, and they always understand that I am working, for example, in research, and they always want to help. They always want to. They are always interested in these kind of things, because probably for them are like a different world to know, to discover. So they are always like trying to know more about some things, to ask me, and they are very, very friendly.
This is so exciting. And it sounds to me, from what you just described, that your life has continued to evolve. You're very curious. You like to learn. And you mentioned about farming. And when we had you on last time, we talked about grass fed beef, and you really
Yeah.
opened our eyes in so many ways. So, in addition to the farming, you also mentioned a magazine. Tell us about some of these other initiatives that you're involved with.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, I come from a family dedicated to culture and social science. My father was anthropologist, my mother was a teacher, and we made a magazine, and we still make this magazine about literature, art, and many topics. And what really motivates me is, that's why I study sociology. It's to being able to build a better world for everybody, for society. That's why we have to understand different cultural contexts, social conflicts, life in reality, and to be able to help, as far as I can, people to live together more consciousness, more fully, like a better life. That's why I study sociology, and that's why I still work at different kinds of research. Nowadays, I'm working on research related to ruralities and the population here in Spain, and many other topics. And I specialize as well. I am specialized as well in participatory processes, which means that anyone can help to understand anything. So it's this will be like a topic to talk about for hours, but so to say, it's like to give the opportunity to everybody to express their opinions about some topics, and I work on this a lot. and I work on as well on citizen laboratories, which is another methodology about cultural mediation. I am a member of the Spanish Federation of Sociology in the committees of research related to rural sociology, sociology of gender, sociology and environment, and I collaborate regularly with various cultural institutions here in Spain and in other countries in Latin America, in the fields of social science training, sociology of culture and ruralities. And I am a part of a cultural collective called La Ortiga, with many partners and many friends, and we edit the magazine, La Ortiga.
Oh my gosh. I just have to applaud you for everything that you're doing and everything that you've accomplished. It's incredible. And you're not in a big city, you're in a rural community making all of these things happen. It's phenomenal. And you mentioned your daughter, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, you're such a beacon of light and such a great role model. What are you hoping for her to stay there in the rural community or to go to the city? Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll dig in a little bit further.
Okay. So I have a daughter, 8-year-old daughter called Candela. My daughter Candela lives like somewhere between the city and the countryside, so to say, because she has a life that is very like integrated in both contexts, so rural and urban. She's a child who, from an early age, she knows what it is to drink cow's milk from one of our own cows, the ones with names. Um, she knows what a vegetable garden is. She knows what is to have chickens and horses, but she's also constantly in contact with urban life, with with its means of transport, with the hustle, the bustle, with the big squares, with lots of people in the streets. Whenever I can, I always take Candela with me, and she travels with me and my husband. And she's always like with her eyes very open. Last week we went to France on a camper for a week, and she came with us, and she we were traveling around Val de Loire, Périgord, Dordogne, with the castles and these beautiful French landscapes. And she's always like trying to make a lot of questions, like very excited about everything. And I think that in the future, because she's only 8 years old now, and I think going back to the question, Jacqueline, I think what I would like to convey is precisely this idea of itinerancy, of traveling, of movement, precisely not always having to choose between the city and the countryside, but perhaps live in both spaces. No, you can live in the countryside and be in contact with the cities and travel a lot and have friends all over the world. And this is the idea that I think I would like for her. And of course, we can enjoy both contexts, rural and urban. We can enjoy nature, mountain ecosystems, and also urban ecosystems, museums. I think we can find richness, cultural richness in both of them. And in the future, she would be the one who will decide where she wants to live. I can only give her tools, no tools to understand and manage in both contexts, rural and urban. And in the future, we will see what she will do.
It's very exciting, and I love how open you are. It's not about being one place or another. It's really about being curious and finding what inspires her and wherever that will lead. So I think that's beautiful. I was wondering, Maria, would you take us back to the last interview when we were talking about grass-fed beef, and you mentioned about your cows and they have names, and you raise them in a certain way. And I think that's really important for people, because I think sometimes people get caught up with just what they're doing and not what is actually behind what enables them to do what they're doing. So what I mean by that is people who like to eat their beef, right? They don't really think about what goes into raising the cattle. And you've created this loving, wonderful environment, just like you have there with your family. Can you talk a little bit more about these extensions of your family, the cattle?
Yes, I think that the cattle, when we make this project, Lalejuca of grass-fed beef, I think that we have to show the people how we produce the meat, because it's very important for everybody to know what they are eating. So when you produce a food, you are not only producing food, you are living in a certain way. I mean, you are respecting the animals, you are respecting the environment, and there are many kinds of meat, and not all are the same. So we have to choose, and we have to choose bearing in mind these processes behind, because usually, normally, when we go to the supermarket, we don't know that. We talked about this in the last interview, but when you go to the supermarket, we are used to have to find there many options of food, but nature is not like that. We don't have tomatoes all the year, during all the year round. So we have to like take this in mind, like bearing this in mind, and be conscious and be mindful about all these problems, all these processes, because we have to take care of the earth. And one of the ways of taking care of the earth is choosing the way we eat, what we eat. And we know, because there are loads of research about this, we know that the meat is a problem. We don't have to eat meat every day. We don't have to eat animal protein every day. So we have to choose very good what kind of meat we eat. And if it's if this meat is grass fed, it will be always less footprint on the environment, and we will have like a more like a more nutritional diet, a better diet, nutritional diet. And we will take care about these animals the way we have our livestock, our cows in the mountains, and then they have in the winter they are in the meadows here, and they are always eating fresh grass. We don't give them cereals, any kind of cereals. So this is a way, this is a model of breeding cattle, very different from industrial models. So we have to take care about what we eat, and we have to support local initiatives, local livestock farming, because this small livestock farming helps to many families to live in a way that they can make their own livestock sustainable.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And we've discussed on other programs about fish and how our waters are polluted, and how what we're putting into the water is ending up in the fish, and then we're eating the fish. And yet the approach that you're taking there with your cattle, treating them as family members, feeding them so well, it's something that I think needs to be repeated across the world, because as a sociologist, you'll know we're all connected. We're all interconnected. So what are your thoughts about how we can protect our food sources so that they are healthy and not contaminated?
I think we have to change like all the model, the system of understanding food production. I think we have to come back to the local and come back to the ecological, agroecological methods and models of producing. And we have a great problem with plastic also in livestock farming. I mean, there are many foods that has plastic also, and there are many ways of breeding the cows that produces a lots of plastic, and this generates like a very like a great ecological footprint. So we have to bear in mind that uh, as much the more natural we breed the animals, the better food we will get. So there are many options of grass-fed beef all around the world, but they are not enough because the system, the industrial livestock farming, always gets like an easier way of attracting people in the supermarkets, with the advertisement, with the great markets all around the world. So this is very hard for small producers like us, for small families, to fight, so to say, to fight against this great global market that has all the tools to say we are here and we are like better than you. So we are always trying to explain customers, to explain clients how we produce this meat, how our animals live all the year round, how we treat them, etc. Because we think this is like emotional way of breeding that has to do with taking care of people's lives, that has to do with taking care of animals' lives, and that has to do to be mindful, to be conscious about that when you eat meat, when you eat beef, you have to understand that an animal has been sacrificed so you can eat beef. So this is a great question and also a moral question. So we have to take this to have this very present in our decisions, and we have to walk together as a society, to walk to better way of producing food. I think this is a very great question to talk about nowadays, also with the climate change and this context, this global context nowadays.
Absolutely. And I feel like, thank you so much for sharing that, that as a result of this pandemic, people are more aware of what's going on in the environment because we were all in, and people were curious and open and learning more things. And I feel like it's incumbent on each and every one of us to do what we need to do so that we're aware of how we're treating the other creatures that have a right to be here. It's not just about us. Every creature's here for a reason. So I'm wondering, Maria, when we think about celebrating rural communities by empowering women, you've accomplished so much. You're bringing your daughter up a certain way. And you mentioned that the issues, the challenges that you have are with the rural men as opposed to the
Yeah.
rural women. Are there ways to attract more women to the community to get involved with these initiatives that you and your family are really um, spearheading, I should say?
Yes, we've made during all these years we've made many initiatives. One of them were cultural, one of them were related to the livestock. We create a cooperative, ecological cooperative of livestock grass-fed farming, and I always say the same. Here in Spain, the rural women are more participative. They are always participating in all the initiatives because they are very they always want to share things, to share ideas, new ideas, to work with other women. They are like more flexible in this sense. And men, I think they are like more conservative maybe, or they have like a different energy probably. So it's harder to work with them in cultural initiatives because they are always like working in the countryside or working with the tractors and that kind of work. But when when you talk to them and you say, why don't we share a journey to talk about different issues related to your work or cultural initiatives, or how can we live in a better way, etc. They are always like threaten, I said before, of empower women. And I think that culture itself is a very way of is a great way of attracting people to the countryside. There are many cultural initiatives here in Spain related to culture, to arts. There are many of them leading by women. I mean that the women are the directors, the CEOs, the ones that are working of them on them on these initiatives, and there are many of them in very small villages. So women nowadays are the ones that are trying to make more visible the rural life in this cultural sense. And they are I think that we as a society, we have to bring them these voice positions, these spaces, so they can speak and they can lead these processes, because normally questions like sexism always gives the voice to the men all the time. And there are many women that we have many things to say in these issues, in this way of life, to propose many ideas, innovation in many fields of the knowledge, of research, of cultural, of ways of living, etc. And also, women are still taking care of our families. I mean, the are the ones, the rural women are the ones that are taking care of the children, but also the elderly people. And we know this in when we are working on different social research. We know that women are still the ones that are taking care all the time of the elderly and also the children. So we have to bring this space of visibility and spaces, so they can these women can express themselves and can be like more visible.
Absolutely. I'm so impressed with what you're speaking about. And it sounds like with the women having so much responsibility for other people, they're still curious about new initiatives and how they can bring value not just to their community but to society overall. And I'm wondering, in the experience that you've had with some of these women, what are their feelings? Are they feeling overwhelmed because they have to take care of children and elderly, and they are excited about these initiatives? Are they empowered?
Yes, they are very it's very hard for them, because it's when you're taking care of other lives like a child or elderly people, is you're like giving a lot of energy of yourself, and it's this is a very emotional process. So they are very tired. When I have to 2 years ago, when the COVID crisis, I had the opportunity to interview loads of rural women, elderly ones, and people that has to taking care of their families, and they were very tired of being all the time without relaxing times from for them, all the time taking care, like with problems of mental health, like anxiety and these kind of problems. So culture, arts, cultural initiatives are always, for them, for these rural women, are always moments of freedom, moments of sharing their time in a different way, not related to suffering, not related to illness, uh, but related to freedom, creative moments, moments of to have a laugh with from some friends, to see each other, because there are a great problem as well in the countryside here in Spain with elderly women, that it has to do with loneliness, to the feeling of loneliness, because many of these old women live alone, and sometimes they don't talk to anybody during all the week. So when they go to one of these cultural initiatives, to the theater, to a museum, to a reading club, they have the opportunity to express themselves, to be listened. I mean, they have the opportunity to I don't know if the word in English is socialize, to be in contact with other people's lives, because they are all the time alone. And we know that there is a great problem of mental health nowadays in the rural in these rural women, old, no, in these old rural women. This is a great problem of mental health, the feeling of loneliness.
Absolutely. You've brought up so many topics we need to have you back to discuss because they're all big topics that are important. I want to make sure before we end the show that we take a look at your website. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, sure. It's still we are working on this website, but I have to make this because many people ask to me like, "Oh, do you have a website? Do you have a website?" No, I still don't have a website, so I have to make this just to. We are working on this because I have also like publications and other interviews that I will put there in the website.
I think it looks phenomenal what you've put here. So, for people who are listening on the radio, the website is Maria's name. It's Maria, Maria dash or minus her last name, Montesino.com. So, Maria, walk us through, if you would. You have here your name, your sociologist, researcher, and agroecological producer. What is that?
That means that I am a farmer. I have my Tudanka cows, as you know, and I always say agroecological producer to give the sense of understanding that have livestock breeding is something very complex. It's not just you have cows or you have chickens or you have horses and you live in the countryside and it's all very romantic and marvelous. No, it's a very complex way of understanding life. It's a social way of understanding life. It's a healthy way of understanding others' lives because you are making a food, transforming a food, so you have to take care of others' lives, other people that is going to eat this beef. So agroecological producer, it means that my perspective, my vision about breeding cattle is ecological and responsible with nature, with the ecosystem, with the environment, taking care about not giving hormones to animals, taking care about not generating pollution and these kind of things.
There's so much detail in there, so much that's involved. I really congratulate you for that. And if that's not enough, you are working on your doctoral thesis, which I did that myself. I know how hard that is, especially with all the other things you have going on and having a family. Tell us about this doctoral thesis and the subject matter.
Well, this is a great story, almost a great story for me, because when um, I studied my degree in Bilbao, and when I finished when I was 22 years old. So at that time, now I'm 40. At that time, I started my PhD, my PhD thesis, my thesis, but I had to quit it because I had to came here to work on the restaurant to help my family. So I couldn't finish my thesis when I was 24, 25. So I forgot that, I forget that. And now with 40 years old, I had like the feeling that I have to finish that thesis. So I came back to the university where I have many friends, and I started a new one with a different issue, different targets. But I had to. I am working on my thesis, but only part time because I have a child, a daughter. So I would like to combine my family with my researching, with my research work. So here in Spain, you normally have like 3-4 years for working on your thesis, and I have like 7 years because I would like to combine my family life with my research work.
Woohoo! Oh my gosh. For all of you out there, please stand up and give her some applause. It's super fantastic. I love it. You are involved in so many important initiatives, and it's hard to believe you're one person and you have your hands in so many things. I really do respect everything that you're doing. What would you like to leave our audience with today if they're thinking, I live in this city, it's great, I know that there's some exciting things out in the country or in rural communities, but I don't know if there's a place there for me.
Well, I always say, like, my advice will be like, don't be afraid of traveling, of listening people, different people. In general, I think that every person should do what they really feel they have to do, because I mean, without being influenced by other people's prejudices, no, like. In other words, like, don't worry about what people think about you. Just um, live your life, because if you don't, you're really like be you will be living like other people's lives. So if you would like to live in the countryside, if you would like to more about the countryside, just travel to the countryside, talk to people. And I think we don't really have to choose. I think that the cities, the countryside, the village, the urban, the rural are like great contexts and great ecosystem, different ones, but also like we I think we need both of them. And I think that we don't have to choose between one of them, that we can make like a mix. And I think life is a mixture between things, very different things, and many ideas and many ways of living. So I think that they would be great to travel more and to talk more to people in the countryside, so they can learn more about this way of living, I think.
I think it's very exciting. And Maria, while we have you on Spotlight, who would you like to reach out to? We have your website up here for people to go over to. But if you could reach anybody out there and say, I'd love for you to contact me, who would it be?
Oh, many people. I am always contacting with many people, but I always have like this kind of feeling of I would like to people that are in my situation. I mean, people that come from the city and live in the countryside. I always like to hear their stories, because many of them always ask me things. How did you do that? How was it? I mean, I would like to go there, but I'm afraid because maybe I don't find the way, or things like that. So this I always like to listen to these people, because it's like a transition that I've lived, and I would like always to help other people's other people's stories. I mean, I always like to help these people if they have any questions, or if they want to tell their stories. And on the other hand, I always like to find more social researchers that probably are studying on the same topics that I'm studying now. So this is always a great time, a great opportunity to know people.
For sure. And Maria, I just want to tell you, your English is exceptional. And I just truly respect you. I thought this when I first met you. You were highly intelligent and able to converse at such a level. The topics you're speaking of when your native language is different. I mean, it's truly amazing. So I just honor you and thank you again for being here. I already spoke to you backstage about coming for another opportunity. We're going to be talking about our relationship with food, and I think you would be a fantastic panelist to join us for that.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. It's always a great pleasure to be here with you in the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
And thank you to Roland for bringing Maria back to the platform. I can't tell you how much joy it brings to me just to listen to our guests. There's so much education here on this platform. And I'm just in awe that people from all over the world are working on all different projects at all different levels. And we get to be privy to that here. So if there's something you'd like to share with us as well, we'd love to hear from you. Please go over to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. You can watch all of our shows on our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio. And we have a special event coming. For those of you who don't know, we'll be celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and that is on January 15th, which is a Sunday. If you'd like to join us, I will be co-hosting with my dear friend, Mr. Al Cini, who promises not only to have his tuxedos and bow ties, but he's going to have a top hat this year. So please do join us. Go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and you can book in and register as a guest for your 15 minutes to talk about your business and the initiatives that you're working on that you want our audience to know about. Thank you again, Maria. Thank you, Roland. And thank you to each and every one of you. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you.